Hello and thank you for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Today on the program, Governor Ganduje flushed Shekarau and Barau at the appeal court. And later on the show, federal government refuses to accept blame for ASUU strike as Ngige tackles Nans over protest at his office. I'll be hanging out with Babjide Kolade-Otitoju and Paul Dada. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin on a note of reprimand. It was a solemn and silent night when gunmen invaded the new cattle market at Omumwazo in Uku West local government in Abia State. They killed 8 traders from the north and slaughtered more than 20 cows. This prompted the coalition of northern groups in Nigeria, CNG, and the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum to condemn killing of the traders. Jide, this is not good for us at all.
It's not good. This purely an act of terrorism, and the people concerned have to be apprehended. I am happy that the state government moved quickly. Perhaps the carnage will have been worse. They moved quickly to even rescue some of the traders, and the injured were taken to hospital. Now, the government also promised to compensate the victims' families. So we hope that the government of Abia State will honor its word and compensate these people as they had promised to do. We also have to bear in mind that there are elements bent on dividing our country and plunging our country into total chaos. Government has to realize that these are enemies of the state who will spare no effort to ensure that Nigeria is in crisis. So we have to identify them and deal decisively with them wherever they may be. Nobody can be bigger than the state. Whatever people think is right, if it goes against the laws of our country, then they have to be resisted. You can't go into a market and be killing people. If that's the way it's being done in other parts of the country, we won't be living in peace at this time. So it's really condemnable, the action of this group of terrorists in Abia State.
What do you think the level of tolerance seems to have dropped among ethnic groups in Nigeria? And the narrative is not always good when it comes to anything. It's always boiling down to ethnicity. We're always narrowing down that thing. Where's that spirit of love?
Well, it is the way it is. And it keeps deteriorating. But one thing I just want to appreciate the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum for is if you look at their statements, they were not playing the ethnic card as such. They were even acknowledging the efforts of the Abia State government for promising to compensate and for moving into action. But unfortunately, this is the way Nigeria is, and nothing is being done to, stop that ethnic divide. It's growing. It's growing. Sometimes when you see something like this, if you go on social media, you might find some people from the south saying serves them right. Callously saying serves them right. These are human beings. Nobody has to die for this kind of thing. These were people doing their normal business. They were not disturbing anybody. But you'll be surprised that people from the south will be saying serves them right. And if it's the other way around, you see them exchanging all sorts of insults. Then you wonder, where is our humanity? Where is our humanity? So this is not something that must be allowed to fester. There must be a stop to this.
Because in these communities, we also have, the way we coexist. If you go to Katsina, you find, if you see the number of my brothers from the east there, traders into anything. If you go to anywhere in the north, they all do their things.
There are places If you go to Umuahia, you see a huge number of Northerners. They've been there for years. I have friends from the far north of our country who are born in Umuahia. Yeah. One of them is a doctor, a friend of mine for more than 20 years now. He was born and raised in the east, in Umuahia there. His father was a trader, you know, and
so you dare not tell that kind of person that
you cannot. We are Nigeria, and we are supposed to be one people. I just don't understand why we have allowed politicians, our leaders, to divide us, and today we don't see ourselves as one people. At all. You know, we are supposed to be one people. Desmond Tutu called the South Africans the rainbow people of God. That means people of multiple ethnicities, but serving the same God. So that's the way we should see ourselves in this country. We are one people. The way we come together when it comes to football matches and all that, it really happens in other matters. We are divided along religious lines, we are divided along the lines of ethnicity, and we hate one another. Everything you post, if you post something on social media, people are already reading political meanings to it. They cannot believe that an individual can even be objective.
Exactly.
They think that everyone sees things just the way they the way they see things. Their own worldview is narrow, so they expect that, oh, everyone is like that. So we just have to do our best to repair the fractured nature of our country. Our country is fractured. We have to admit that and do our best to repair things. And it's still the government and our clergymen across religious divides who can make this happen, because religious leaders are well respected. So if they would do their best to bring us together as one people, I'm sure that the narrative will change.
I think we need to acceptance of our realities. We need to realize the fact that we have different religions. There's not anybody can do about it. We are different ethnic groups. We need to realize that our diversity, there is strength in our diversity. The fact that we have multiple cultures, it's strength. This is strength we can play up. You know, I could have also been, Providence made me an indigene of Lagos. I could have also been an indigene of Katsina. I will still be a human being. It doesn't matter. So we should understand this, that you cannot remove Muslims from this country. You cannot remove Christians from this country. You cannot remove Hausa, Fulani, or Yoruba from this country. We need to learn to stay together. It's still the same problems we have. It's still the same challenges we have.
All right. More communities are slipping into the hands of armed bandits in Zamfara State, and people now live at their mercy. Residents of Matunji communities in Maru local government area of the state have reportedly paid 40.7 million naira as protection levy to bandits. They said they delivered 9.7 million naira to the bandits on the 4th of February as at the last installment of the levy collected from various peasant communities in the area. This came after the bandits sacked a military base in the area 6 months ago, killing 9 Air Force, 2 police, and 1 army personnel. Jide, this is unbelievable. So our people are now paying money
that we are paying. Which one of which?
The money now that the levy, they were reportedly levied 40.7 million naira, and they want to go and deliver 9.7 million naira.
Being the final installment.
Final installment.
And they agreed.
Are we at war?
Oh, even people at war, do they levy them? They don't levy them. This is an unusual situation. This is an unusual situation. These bandits simply want to make money. They simply want to make money. It's about money. It's not.
And government cannot guarantee.
As long as, see, once they sack a military base, they've sent a direct message to you people that, look, these guys can't protect you. If you want protection, come and pay for it. This is what Dogo Gide and his people have been doing. This is what other bandit groups bandit groups levying peasant farmers in farming communities is not a new thing.
What does it take?
It's now in places where it was not common. In Kebbi, the people resisted them and they paid with their lives. They killed 88 people in one day. In some parts, in even Katsina, people are already used to paying them. So it's not a matter
to overrun a military base.
If see, military bases have different levels of protection. People think that, oh, because these guys are soldiers,
that's what
they can win. They can win any war, or they can be confronted by
ragtag civil.
See, stop! Don't call them ragtag. Anyone who can handle GPMG, who can fire RPGs, because you see them hanging them, that person has a level of training. Some of these people that they are using, they are mercenaries. People came from Chad who had been involved in the civil war in Chad. You know, Boko Haram too uses them. So you see them, you say they are ragtag. They have training in weapons handling. Once you have training in weapons handling, nobody should underrate you. Do they not? The other day they snatched, what was it called? This boy snatched an armored vehicle of the army, and you saw them driving it by themselves. If you do not, can you as a person now jump into an armored tank or an armored personnel carrier and begin to drive it? So some of them, a lot of them are rogue elements who left the military. Maybe they were dismissed from the military. They have some level of training. Boko Haram once sent some of their men to Somalia to get training from Al-Shabaab. So they will come back and we will say they are ragtag. So before our eyes, ragtag will be dislodging army bases because they have training and they have weapons. So back to what I was saying, military bases have different levels of protection. When Burate saw that Boko Haram was overrunning military bases with ease, what did he do? He created what you call the super camps. The super camps will have more weapons and more men. What he was doing was some of those small military bases in communities, he collapsed them into the super camps. So the super camps were now very difficult to overrun. Not that they were not being overrun. Some were still overrun. It's on record that some super camps were overrun. But it was not as easy as it used to be back then. But the implication was that some communities were now left unprotected. So when I say level of protection, I'm talking about the level of military hardware available at those military bases. Before these boys launch an attack, they will have done some level of recce of their own. They will now know that, okay, if we send 100 fighters, about 50 of them with RPG, some with GPMG, and some with either AK-47 or AK-49, we can easily overrun these people. They overrun military bases, even in Niger. Because some of those military bases are just small bases, you know, where you can offer some level of protection to residents of those communities. But if they come with so much force, they can overrun. So it's not a new thing. The other day in Bringing Quarry, they slaughtered our soldiers. Those boys were even attacked in their sleep. So these things can happen. These things can happen. Those boys can overrun a military base. It depends on how big it is or how fortified it is. So this is the thing. Especially those ones in remote areas. Remote areas, they usually do not have the kind of weapons available to the military bases in the urban or semi-urban centers. So this is why this is about taking money. It's all the bandit leaders get into this kind of negotiation.
Something that the federal government of Nigeria should be ashamed of.
Yes, federal government.
If their primary aim is responsibility of protection of lives and property.
If there is another word I can use that is worse than ashamed, then I will use it.
Because our people,
yes,
in spite of the poverty in the land.
Exactly, because what this simply means is that these bandits have set up another government within a sovereign state. Now they are now collecting
their own FIRS.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. They have their own FIRS and all of that. And then people are helpless. And I will not blame the communities for agreeing to this. Actually, in this community, it was even the bandits that initiated it, because they started kidnapping them, robbing them, and all of that. They initiated it's like a peace move.
Offering.
Peace offering. Okay, if you want us to stop harassing you, stop kidnapping, stop killing you, stop kidnapping your people for ransom.
Okay, I saw this video and I got curious that this particular person, maybe they know him in the community. They just allowed him to just pass. Maybe
it's possible.
Maybe he has paid.
Exactly.
They just allowed it for everybody. Nobody harassed him. Yes. But just imagine a strange vehicle attempting to pass.
I think they just shot this thing for propaganda to show that, look, we are
on ground.
We are not being defeated. Sheikh Gumi boasted that you cannot use military might to defeat them. These boys have come out now. Their main goal is to show themselves. I don't think they came out to harass. They just wanted to show that, look, see, we are here. This is, and you see their array of weapons, at least you know that they have, they can protect themselves to a certain level.
So they became more daring here after sacking a military base. They are sending a message that, look, here we are on ground. And like I want to buttress what Jide said about the fact that, we call them ragtag, maybe because of the way they look, because of the way they dress. But the truth of the matter is, this is what they are living for. They've done their own capacity building, so to speak. They have done their training. Just the way you as a journalist, you train yourself to become better. And every professional does. This is their own profession, so to speak. So they live by the gun. The gun is their tool. All those weapons they carry. So
they get familiar with it.
They get familiar with it, and they go.
Have you not seen a woman, a Fulani woman who was shown? I think maybe a Fulani woman from Mali or somewhere who was shown firing an AK-47. So and even some children could fire an AK-47. It's the level of training. But if you had never handled it, if they give the gun to you, in the attempt to fire, you can fall down.
It's true now, because you are not used to it. It's not your life.
Also to fall down.
It's not your life.
So
okay. The internal wrangling within the All Progressive Congress APC in Kano State has taken another twist. The Court of Appeals sitting in Abuja struck out the judgment of the lower court, which gave the Senator Ibrahim Shekarau's G7 faction victory over the faction led by the state governor, Abdullahi Ganduje. The appellant court ruled in favor of the governor's faction on the 3 appeals filed against the judgment of the lower court, citing the lack of territorial jurisdiction and intra-party affairs. Babjide, it was shocking when I discovered that the structure of the All Progressive Congress, according to the last verdict, was in the hand of Senator Shekarau. And I was hoping that after some time, maybe they're still in court. So to get this news now, what is happening in Kano APC?
Well, it's a tough contest for power within the party. We have a former governor and a sitting governor. Each of these guys in other states are qualified to be leaders of the party. By the APC constitution, where you do not have a sitting governor, a former governor becomes the natural leader of the party in that state. That was why before the advent of Yabelo, the late Abakar Odu was the leader of the party in Kogi State. He was the one who conducted the primaries that brought people like Dino Melaye and the rest of them to the Senate at that time. So now, with the party factionalized in the state, both groups went about conducting primaries and all that. The Shekarau faction conducted primaries for their faction. And in the battle to see which group gets the nod of the party leadership, they proceeded to court and used the court to validate the emergence of their own group, of the ESCO that their group produced. You get my message? Yeah. So 3 times they got judgment validating that ESCO. So, you know, at that point they felt, well, we are home and dry. We are in charge. This is the structures, this is the structure of the party that has been recognized by court. The Ganduje group, led by Abdullah Abbas, the leadership, the chairman of his own faction, did not get validation by the courts, despite their efforts. So naturally, the Shekarau group will feel, yes,
encouraged,
yes, that we are
that we won over and over.
The party will be compelled to work with us because the courts have said that we are the, you know, authentic this thing. You know, just similar to what happened in the PDP in Ogun State back then, because it was Buruji Kashamu. It was Buruji Kashamu's group.
Holding
that
party by the jugular.
Yes, the structures. No, he kept winning in court. That was the thing. He kept winning, and he could not be dislodged. He could not be dislodged.
The same thing. This other senator in Borno State. Before they wanted to finish, yes.
SARS. Obasanjo said he would be the undertaker of the party. But it took the Supreme Court to take the party of SARS. It was
very difficult.
It was a hell of a war. So now, what this judgment has done is to return everything to the status quo. This judgment has been interpreted in many ways. But, you know, just as it is in our country, people will always find what really favors them. But what this judge is saying, if you look at the judgment thoroughly, what the judgment is saying is, look, even the Federal High Court that gave judgment to the Shekarau group did not have the jurisdiction to do so. The appeal court in the unanimous decision affirmed that the matter was not even a pre-election matter, that it was an intra-party matter. It was neither a post-election or a pre-election matter. Therefore, it did not have jurisdiction to entertain it. He said the appeal court did not have jurisdiction, neither did the Federal High Court have jurisdiction in the first place. So what it then means,
citing lack of territorial jurisdiction.
Yes, that we don't have we don't have the jurisdiction. Now this matter now has to go back to the party. It's the party now that can resolve this matter. Technically, that's the implication of the judgment. You go back because it's an intra-party matter that should be resolved by the party. Therefore, they have to go back. But that's not the end of the matter. The Shekarau group are going to Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
They are going to the Supreme Court, and their own argument is, look, the party came out with guidelines. We fulfilled all of the guidelines that the stipulations. Now, let the Supreme Court uphold the decision of the Federal High Court, which validated the leadership of, the faction of Shekarau.
Okay.
That is their own argument now, that they are going to the Supreme Court. They are confident that the Supreme Court will uphold the Federal High Court judgment which favored them in the first place.
All right. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. Peace. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's your favorite news and current affairs program, Journalist Hangout, reaching you live from TBC News here in Lagos. And I still have Babjide Kolade-Otitoju and Paul Dada with me. Paul, now, Kano we know is like the strength of any political party.
Definitely, yeah.
The strength of even APC. You remember the 1.9 million votes of 2015, and immediately the 1.9 million votes entered. It did a kind of incalculable damage,
exactly.
to every other state. Nobody could.
Kano is a very strong state politically. They have population, highest voting population.
And political awareness.
Yes, very high.
And it's not like some places in the south that people will be playing football on the road.
Yes, we should say Lagos. It's not like Lagos, yes, with 7 million registered voters and people will emerge with 1 million.
They will tell you that we've known the winner. What it concern me. So that is why the APC cannot afford to lose that state. And I know that the gladiators will stop at nothing. Yeah, of course, it's going to the Supreme Court. But the thing is this. Now, Supreme Court has to lay something to rest. The wise men of the appeal court say that there is no jurisdiction, intra-party affairs. The Supreme Court has to make if they go to the Supreme Court as they are going, the Supreme Court has to, I think the Supreme Court has to provide a blueprint or a guide for solving intra-party crisis. Because when somebody, even let's say they go back to the status quo and the party decides one of the factions has it. Now, the other party may not be satisfied. We still feel
go back
disgruntled.
So
because
like,
again, who settles such issues? Who settles such issues?
Ultimately, what's now the essence of going to court? If the court cannot,
I will say that the courts cannot settle this kind of issue because it's inter-party crisis. I think that is what the Supreme Court has to actually decide, has to resolve, because they are saying they don't have
go back to your party.
Go back to the status quo.
Let them solve it.
And all of that.
So if that is the ruling, you are telling that if the party should be doing the wrong thing, should do the wrong thing, we can't. What's the essence of going to court?
But I know that APC cannot afford to lose Kano, and this kind of you are talking about two strong men. These men
former governor.
They are strong men. They are not pushovers. So I wouldn't know if in the end they will settle.
No, they don't have a choice. Honestly, I look at the way it is. I think that I know a bit about Malam Shekarau. I think he's a gentleman. I think that the governor of Kano State, as the leader of the party, because even the party made it clear that last week that, look, this is the leader of the party. That's what the constitution of the party says. Once somebody is a sitting governor, he becomes the leader of the party. As the leader of the party, he has to extend an olive hand, make some concessions. Because the party tried to solve this problem, but they couldn't solve it in the end. Because you then said they should go and meet with one another. These people are in court against one another. People who are in court, even the Yorubas have that saying that you know, something like that. So they were in court and you said they should sit with one another. Of course they will not sit. The one in court will think that, look, I can win the case. When I win the case, I'm in the position of strength to continue to dominate and all that. So the point I'm trying to make is, I do not see Shekarau going to the PDP, for example. I don't even think that is that kind of person. Going to the PDP to do what?
Or to work with...
if he goes to the PDP, if Kwankwaso is there,
exactly,
and that's his mortal enemy, they can't be in the same party. That one is not going to happen. Yes, they can't be. It's just like saying that Atahiru Bafarawa and Magataka Dawamako should be in the same party. No, it can't happen now. It can't. It's just not going to happen. The other day they met in Sokoto airport VIP lounge, and they were abusing one another in public. Are your old men abusing one another in public? So this is not, it's not,
But there are no maturity in this thing. I saw the picture of Opus Odima and Rochas Okorocha at a public function. They embrace.
There are some people who pretend to one another. There are some people who do not agree to pretend. So hope hugging Rochas is, well, what does that amount to? Even people watching them will know that they are jokers. Because they are not happy with one another. That's just for the cameras. And all this for the cameras, we know now. We've seen there was a meeting where the people came, they smiled, they were deceiving themselves. At the end of the day, no peace. So what I'm saying is, Kwankwaso himself, although Kwankwaso is facing crisis in the PDP, in the election held in Kaduna, his own person was going to win the zonal election, and somehow PDP contrived to not let his candidate not let his candidate have it.
People are speculating that.
So he thinks that there are probably people in the PDP who do not want him to survive within the party. So perhaps he may come back to the PDP, I mean to the APC, if he is convinced that Shekarau has left the group. That is the only way. I've been thinking since this morning that what could happen if Shekarau leaves the APC for PDP because Kwankwaso's days there appear to be numbered. Then
he has been denying, but we know.
No, we know that they are trying to squeeze him out of the party. What they did to him that time, everyone, you only do that to an enemy. How can you stop his candidate from emerging in the zonal election? You know? So now, if Kwankwaso leaves the PDP, maybe that would be a good time for Shekarau to go back there. But I still think that Shekarau has strength and that the governor can manage him better.
Okay.
If I see,
and they can work together. Ganduje and Shekarau can still work together.
I believe that is possible. If I can sit before those two old men, if I can sit before those two men, there are things that I will say to them. In my view, it's possible for them to work together. They do not. That friction should not be allowed to degenerate to the level of Kwankwaso and Shekarau.
As in, that one has gotten to the extreme.
No, they can't. Anybody who tells you that they can be in the same party is a liar. It's just not going to happen. And the parallel
to the extreme.
You can't tell Magataka that Wamako. I made the prediction that I said one of these two will leave. And I was not surprised when Atairu Bafarawa left the APC. Yeah, so these things that people will not agree to work together, whatever happens. You can't reconcile them. You can't. Made up their mind. Politically, will never work together. So this one should just not. Party leaders need to talk to both men. They should not get to that point.
I think the strong people, knowing what is at stake.
Exactly.
If the opposition, if PDP gets their bearing in Kano, and
people must learn to subject their personal interests to that of the party. Now, if their law, if it's conventional that a sitting governor becomes the natural leader of the party, that should be put into consideration. If you need to also respect the fact that this man was a governor, that has to be put into consideration. There has to be a way of coming together.
Power sharing.
That's what I'm saying. Power sharing. So that everybody, you may not get all. You may not get all 70-30. It may not be 50-50.
With a governor.
You may not get all you want, but you should be acknowledged.
It's called if I mean sharing 50-50 with people over there. Just ask yourself. It's your person now. Is he sharing 50-50 with Bamdele and others? Will he agree? Which governor does that?
The city governor.
It can't be 50-50.
No governor will share 50-50 with no matter the situation. It has to be agreed that will not happen. And the old man in Kano, you may see him, he may not talk, you may be looking at him, look like a gentleman. He's a very shrewd and ruthless politician. That's
Abdullah Ganduje.
Ah, no. It's 50-50. It's not happening.
So let them sort themselves out. Be fine.
All right, and finally, the regular pattern of blame game and buck passing bedeviling the system here in Nigeria is trailing the ongoing strike by the academic staff of universities, ASUU. The federal government has refused to take the blame for the 1-month strike. The Minister of Education, Adamu, absolved the government of any blame, but accused the lecturers of avoiding negotiation. Meanwhile, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has faulted the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, for blaming him for the strike, saying they are ignorant of the facts. But first, let's hear from the Minister of Education.
There is a solution. The negotiation that has been going on is the solution. And that is why I told you I'm so surprised that ASUU has gone on strike. They submitted a draft agreement which the ministry is looking at. A committee is looking at it. Immediately it finishes, the government will announce what it has accepted of that. Then suddenly I had them going on strike.
Wow, Adamu, it's been a while.
Good to see him again.
Again, it's been a while. He has been very quiet. Yeah, you normally see his Minister of State, Honorable, forgotten his name. It's from the East, from Imo State. The man from Imo State. But then, Babjide, now, it was avoidable that they went and backed on this 1-month strike. We've been talking about it since December, that we should not allow this to happen. And it surely, like the government will always do, it degenerated, and you can guess what will happen in the next 1 month. That they might not sit down at the same table or agree on everything.
As I've said repeatedly, they are not asking that all those demands be met. That's not the demand for now. They are saying just meet 2. That is UTAS as well as renegotiation of the wages of academic staff. That's the 2009 agreement. They said renegotiate it and agree to UTAS. They said if they can do those 2, they are ready. They are not talking about those multiple demands. So they are saying to avoid this strike, agree to those 2 demands. So they've created a situation whereby any objective person looking at this issue will say, just 2 demands. Shouldn't be difficult to handle. But you want to subordinate, you want to subject academic staff to the same principle, to the same payment platform that governs the civil service, the federal civil service generally. But they are saying that, look, the academic environment is different. And everyone knows that it is different. Because IPPIS is not flexible enough, you then ask them to come up with alternative. They came up with alternative in form of UTAS. You subjected it to test. After a long while, you agreed that yes, this UTAS can work.
Good for them.
But now, when it came to implementing, you are refusing to implement. You set up the Mozalin Jibrin committee. You said, Mozalin, you are a former executive secretary of Universities Commission, and you see, go and negotiate with your colleagues. He negotiated with them, brought his findings, because those were part of the demands that ASUU made, which culminated in the Memorandum of Action of December 2020, which made ASUU to call off the strike back then. So look at, we've had to deal with this issue, we've had a whole year. Let's be sincere to ourselves. We've had a whole year since the Memorandum of Action was signed and ASUU called off a strike, December 2020. We are still on this issue now. And Madam Adamu is telling us that, that they were still looking at the draft, that there was a draft agreement, they were looking at it, while they were looking at it, suddenly these people went on strike. What? If were you communicating with them? The answer is no. When these guys were threatening to go on strike, clerics, including the Sultan, waited in. They said, no, we will talk to government.
I remember.
They said they will talk to government. Till today, nobody has gone back to them among those clerics to say, okay, we met with government, this is what government wanted. Now you are giving us the impression that they don't want to negotiate. Based on what are you telling us that they don't want to negotiate? Then how long does it take to implement ideas? December 2020 was when they called off, when they suspended the strike. Let me not use the word call off, because they actually suspended, they didn't call off. So why has it taken this long? They said that they went on strike at the time government was attending to their demands. How? What is the evidence that you are already attending to those demands? He needs to explain more.
Why is the Minister of Labour and Employment crossed with the National Association of Nigerian Students?
Honestly, I don't even understand that, man.
No, they went to protest
yes,
in
I
his
know
office.
what they
So
did now. No, that's what I'm saying. When I say I don't understand, the NANS, they have the right to protest because it's their future that is at stake. And they were right to go on that protest. They are the ones that are suffering. Now, I keep wondering what the problem is in this country. See, there are two sectors that we must not allow to suffer in this country: the health sector and the education sector. By now, we should be talking of how to reposition our universities to solve new problems. How can our lecturers, how can they embark on research? How can they get profile solutions to some of the problems we're having? Look at the terrorism challenges. Universities should be at the forefront of profiling what solutions. But how will they sit down to, do all of this when they are still fighting over end allowances that are not paid? We're talking about an agreement that was made in 2009, 2022. And you are saying the strike is illegal. That's Christian Gig saying that the crisis is illegal, is this, is that. Not to hear all of this. Let us change the narrative for the first time. These people are not asking for too much. We're in a country where agberos that are empowered by politicians are earning millions. And then you have professors. How much are professors? How much are they earning in this country? How much is the graduate assistant earning in this country? How much is lecturer 1 earning, lecturer 2 earning? So these people are asking, they're not asking for too much. Now, doctor, they should see all these things they are saying will not work. They can threaten. When has their threat ever worked? So this strike is something that could have been avoided. For me, I'm not going to blame ASUU. The next thing you're going to hear now is that NASU also goes on strike. The next thing you hear that, what's the name of that? SANU. SANU goes. Then they work for polytechnics. What do you call them? ASUU. Why?
No, they will cripple the
education sector. As you're supposed to spend, a child is supposed to spend 4 years in university, 4 sessions, is spending 5.
It's not guaranteed now for public schools.
What is happening?
I talked about one boy who spent 3 extra years in the university, and he applied for a job. They capped the age at 27. He applied for that job at 30.
Let's quickly go on this break and we'll be right back.
So if they had not gone on strike, he will have met that age criteria. He lost 3 years.
All right, we'll be right back. So welcome back. Jide, reaching home stretch now. Let's talk about solution.
The solution is for Senator Ngige to call ASUU and meet with them. He was telling the students that, look, I'm not the employer of academic staff of universities. It's the Federal Ministry of Education. That he is only the conciliator. It's like the go-between who helps to bring them together and achieve some resolution.
He negotiated with the doctors too.
Yes. So he's saying he's not the you know, he gets emotional over this matter. He's saying that it's not the employer. It's true that the Ministry of Education is the employer, but as the Minister of Labour, this issue is labor related. As the Minister of Labour, you are the one to lead the negotiation on these matters. How will anybody know? He also defended himself that the memorandum of action signed in December 2020, it is not true that he has not done anything about it. But if you are doing something about it, people also need to know that you are taking steps. I know that his hands are tied because these issues revolve around money. Ngige may have his own way of solving this problem, but it all revolves around money. And his own ministry is not amongst the wealthy ministries. Which contract does he give, for example? So I can understand his frustration at times, but as a father, he also has to do his best, get all these contending groups to come together, come to a round table. Let's solve this problem in the interest of public universities and our children.
And the beauty of it is that I've even seen his children graduating from these public universities. At least I've seen two.
Well,
it's
good for him. But I think good for him. But I think the unions have trust issues now. You know, because many times government has promised you will do this, we will do that, and then they go back to work in good faith, and then the same story, the cycle continues. So we have to find a way of stopping it from continuing. You know, we can't afford this in our education sector.
Okay. So, I want to thank you, Paul Dada. Thank you for your contribution. And BQ, thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11. Join us on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Osubago. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.